I'd like to call the Blytheville School Board meeting September 28th to order. It is 6:03 p.m. and we have a quorum with 7 members present. We are live streaming this meeting of the Blytheville School Board on YouTube for any outside participants to view. And with that, I will move to old business, which I didn't have anything. Do any of the other board members have anything that we need to cover in old business?
Miss Camden, what is, because I guess I want to say considered old business. It was old, and I think it's dead, but I want to make, you know, when we were talking about changing the names of the assembly.
Yes, ma'am.
I know it's dead, but I truly want to apologize to Mrs. Blankenship because we left her out. And I thought about it and I thought about it because I did some more research. It wasn't really left up to the board to change that. You know, the counselor and that principal at that time did that change. And I just really want to apologize to her. That's the only thing that I have on that one. And then my other thing is the primary school. Mr. Brandon, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but these kids are on the floor. I went again Monday on the 21st. They're sitting on the floor to see the smart board. And they need to do some readjustments to these classrooms if we got 18 kids in these classrooms. We already know we're not practicing 6 foot apiece. And then another thing is we got our shields. Our shields hadn't came in yet, but we got kids sitting on the floor. And then we're not doing the safety rule. It's just not cool with me when I walk over there and I see, because she was kind of adamant that this is the way it's going to be. But I think they need to really look at that and get those rooms where it's spread it out enough for those kids where they can see these teachers and not be on the floor, and the teacher can be kind of happy too.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. So if you would address that when we come, I don't know, Mr. Harper, I know could speak to some of the face shields and that kind of thing. So if we could address that during his report, or
okay,
any of the other people, your concerns there, that would be great. The true purpose of old business is really just any kind of carryover that was not resolved from the previous meeting,
yeah,
or a previous, that's ongoing that we have not concluded. So that's kind of what we're hoping to accomplish with old business. But anytime you have business that fits within the reports that we give, that's probably the appropriate time to give them.
okay,
I think that's good. Thanks for your input.
okay.
Okay, and Mr. Ashley, we have a new item on here. Report to the public.
Yes, ma'am. It will only be on there once a year, and that Mr. Williams is going to be doing the report to the public. And I've shared with Chris the right to host. So, Mr. Williams, if you want to go with that.
I sure will.
We're getting some feedback from someone. It sounds like a TV or something like that. If y'all don't mind, if you're not speaking, putting your computer on mute, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Myself and Ms. Cook, we will go over the yearly report to the public. And this is something we do, we're required to do each September. Sometimes we do it in August, but we normally do it, we've started doing it in September the last couple of years. So this is the yearly report to the public. It's fairly short, but we'll go ahead and get right with it. And Ms. Cook, are you on right now?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I was having trouble. I was trying to send the link to someone who said they couldn't find it on the board link. Is it the same link as it would have been last year? Because I've had a couple of people asking, or last week, for the YouTube link for tonight.
Yes, I believe so. It should be the same as the last.
Same as the last. Okay, I think it had last time's date on it, and that was throwing some people off, thinking that maybe they were linking to the wrong meeting.
Okay, I'll find out right quick.
Okay, I sent a text real quick, so I think they're okay. It was a couple of teachers that were looking to try to listen.
Okay.
So, okay, I am now on, Mr. Williams. So, what part do you want me to begin, or do you want me to?
Yes. So let me back up here. Okay. Each school is accredited for last school year. We go through a standards for accreditation process for each year, every school district. There's a whole set of standards that must be followed throughout the school year. And the Arkansas Department of Education, they check in monthly as part of the standard system. And by the end of May of each year, we have to be fully accredited for each school, or we get cited. And as you can see right here, all 4 of our schools were fully accredited for the 2019-2020 school year. And I'll go ahead and let Ms. Cook take over the next couple of slides here.
Okay. The professional learning for teacher development is just highlighting some of the main things that we do. You all are very familiar with most of these things, or with all of these things, as a matter of fact, because we talk about them regularly. But this is some of the things that our money goes towards. The science of reading, first of all, is required by every teacher, kindergarten through 12th grade. They must either complete a proficiency or an awareness pathway. And so this just tells the types of pathways that they choose, or that they use, based on their grade level and what they're teaching. We pay for that kind of training through the co-op. We also pay for any support that we need to have from someone coming in town to help us with that. But mostly it's helped through the co-op. Also, the using connections as the phonics letter learning teaching curriculum for K2 whole group and 3-4 as needed is part of a training. And that is something we've been working through to get every teacher in the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade and 3rd grade completely certified to do. All of our interventionists as well. And as needed, as we go on up through the grades, if there's a need for someone to do that, that's another thing that we pay for. It also helps us with our dyslexia intervention. And so it's a very important training that we pay for to make sure our students get the very best learning. The PLC at Work grant, year 3, is another big professional learning that we do across the district. It began, as you know, at the primary school. And this year, is focused on assessment. This is the 3rd year that the primary school has had it, and the work in all of the other buildings is based on what we are learning through the team coming and spending 70+ days at the primary school. And so they're getting significant amount of work and help and support from the grant. And we're using the same information to go in and provide that same type of support to the other buildings. Another piece of learning that we do is the novice teacher support. All year 1, year 2, and year 3 novices have to get support. And so one of the ways we do that is through collaboration with our content area teachers. We have buddy teachers. The test training that we do for them, a lot of different practices that we do. So that is another big support. And we do that for everyone, years 1, 2, and 3. And even some of our year 4 and 5s will join in. If someone's not licensed, we pull them back in and let them continue to train with the newer people until they get to that licensed point. We also work on behavior strategies, trying to support our behavior interventionists and our assistant principals. And that work is often through PBIS, through Arkansas State University. And we started with to help with that. And we're ending our grant now, but we'll still free training. From that, I'm hearing a lot of echo. I feel like some people don't have their mute on, but that may have done it. But anyway, we do get training for that, for social and emotional learning, and for restorative justice practices. And Ms. Cole and I work with that group of behavior interventionists and assistant principals to make sure that training happens for them first, and then it goes from there out into the schools. We also make sure that our special education teachers at every level get the same professional learning that our regular ed teachers get. We don't try to show any difference between them. They obviously get some things that are special to them, but overall, we make sure that they also get the same grade level and content level training, SEL level, behavior level, anything that anybody else would be getting, those teachers get. And then all of our professional learning is monitored through the strategic action plans, which are set up through a cycle of inquiry. And we have teams within every building and throughout the district that work together. As far as goals, these are goals that are very, very similar to what you have seen last year, because we did not get to finish testing at the primary school. They are using the goals up through, or the information up through April, because their iStation, they tested every month, and they took a range of goals from that that goes up through April. And at this point, their goal is going to increase from 45 to 50% overall at the school. And that range, there's a separate range for every grade level. So all of the different grade levels actually move from one level to the next by the individual grade. At the elementary school, this is the same as they were again last year. So this should look very familiar. Their goal is to move from 40 to 50% on the ACT Aspire. See. At the middle school, their overall goal is to go from 25% to 35%. And then they have some individual grade level goals as well. And at the high school, and I don't have that percent in there for some reason, but I believe it was 13%. So we're going to move from 9 to 13% at the 10th grade level, and that was our ultimate goal for the high school. I'll go back and fix that before we turn this in. Sorry, that number was missing. And again, those goals for all of this is just basically, it's the same goals we've had for the last 2 years, because we did not get to have state testing. So this is not anything new. AP courses that are offered, we have actually at this point, we had more AP courses offered than any other school in the county. We have an AP English Lit and Composition course, AP Biology, AP Calculus, AP Statistics, AP US History, AP World History, AP US Government and Politics. And of course, all of those have very specific exams run by the AP test coordinator. And so we are getting some advanced work in front of our kids and hope to expand the number of kids that take advantage of those courses.
Okay, this is our enrollment trend for the last 6 school years. As you can see, the October 1 enrollment count, it has gone down each of the last 6 years. As of this morning, we're at 1,737 students. We're down, as you can see, about 123 students over this same time last year. We're actually down about 85 students since the last day of school last year. We had 1,824 on the last day of school. Okay, this is the enrollment by grade figures, and these numbers are as of this morning. I want to show last year's numbers as compared to this year's numbers, and you can tell, last year we had 174 kindergarten students. This year we have 132 as of this morning. So we are down in kindergarten, but if you look across each grade, you can kind of see where the numbers are. And as I said before, last year we were at 1860. This year, right now, we're at 1737. Now you'll see that these are color coded here, And the reason why I did that is just so you can see how each cohort is doing as they progress through. So last year we had 174 kindergarten students. This year of that same class, we have 164. We had 165 first grade students last year. We have 144 this year. And you can kind of follow that throughout the grades there. Our current enrollment by instruction type. So with this year, with the virtual academy, the Department of Education, they implemented a new field within eSchool so we could track students, whether they're face-to-face or whether or not they're virtual. And then they just implemented a new field a couple of weeks ago for no-show students. Normally in years past, we have to drop no-show students on the 11th day of school. However, this year, all schools have until September the 30th. 2 weeks ago, we had 98 no-show students. The staff at each school, the administrators at each school, they have been on the phone calling students. They have made home visits, all types of things to get out and reach to these students that have not showed up or have not participated virtually. As of this morning, we're down to 19 no-show students. Overall, we have 1,737, as I mentioned. 967 of these students are face-to-face, and as of this morning, 751 are virtual. Our licensed staff, we have 164.33 full-time equivalent staff members that are licensed. Of those 164, 51.93% have their bachelor's degree, 42.59% have their master's degree, and 5.48% have an advanced degree, either a specialist or a doctorate. Of those 164.33 licensed staff members, 19.47%, which is 32, are on waivers. Classified staff, we have 127.67 full-time equivalent classified staff members for a total of 292 employees throughout the district. These are the board member details. This is just part of the report to the public that's required by the state. We just have to list the number of training hours that were done during the previous year. And so that's listed here as far as, and also with the expiration of each term. On funding, federal funding, this year in Title I, we received $1,575,549. And the majority of this funding, a lot of it is used for paraprofessionals and also some reading interventionists. Overall, salaries and benefits take up just over $1 million of federal funding. And the rest of it is tied up with learning software, credit recovery systems, parent-family engagement, homeless needs, and parent notification systems. Other federal funding that we receive is Title IIA, which is mainly professional development and teacher recruitment. We received $160,405. Title IV, which pays for a college and career coach, behavioral interventionist, and several other things. We received $112,274. Title V, we received $37,810. Title VI-B, which is special education, we received $609,619. And then CARES Act funding, which we've discussed in previous board meetings, we received $1,178,018. State categorical funding, these have certain restrictions on how they can be used, along with much of the federal funding is restricted as well. ESA funding, we received $1,558,633. That pays for a lot of instructional facilitators, nurses, instructional funding, also includes instructional aids, professional development, classroom software, ELL, English language learner funding, we received $14,336. ALE, alternative ed, we received $314,314. And then PD 223 funding, we received $66,318. State foundation funding, this is whenever we talk about the $7,000 that we receive per student from the state. This is what state foundation funding is. This year, which is based on the previous year average daily membership, we received $8,451,564. And this is what pays teacher salaries and classified salaries, as well as benefits, and then also for maintenance and operations. And that concludes the report to the public. Does anybody have any questions?
Could you tell us about the enrollment in AP classes? I noticed that we mentioned that we had all these AP classes. I wondered how many students we had enrolled in those classes, if they're at capacity.
I can pull that information. I do not have that information off the top of my head, but I can definitely pull that information to get exact numbers for you on how many students are enrolled in each course.
That would be great. Thank you.
Aaron, can I, Chris, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible you can send that to me to my email, please? Your report.
I sure can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, to the whole staff, I just want to commend you all and say congratulations to all the staff that went out to find those students, to reduce it from 95, not knowing where 95, I haven't heard from them, to down to 19. I wish it was 0, but even to reduce it down to 19, that looks like it's probably over 90%, or 85%, somewhere around there. Great work to all the staff, the principals, vice principals, and counselors, whoever went out. Y'all did a great job, and I commend you.
Thank you, Ms. Sims.
And I don't understand that. What you mean, Mrs. Sims went out and recruit students?
Not recruit. They went and found. Remember, there were 95 students that they had not heard from.
Yeah,
virtually
right.
or face-to-face contact. So they went out door to door trying to find those students, and so they did. And they are only 19 that they have not had any contact with. So I think they did a great job.
I agree with you. I forgot about that. We had students missing. That's correct.
The no-show students for this year, that is not something that's that's just Blytheville only. That's
Right.
across the state. Many schools across the state, they're missing a lot of students. This year. Out of those 98 students or so that we were missing a couple of weeks ago, we were surprised. I mean, we were very happy. Most of those students we did get back within our school district. We did find out a handful of them did transfer to other school districts or have moved out of state, and we just hadn't received records requests on them. But out of the 77, 78 that we have communicated with, I believe we got back around almost 70 of them. There were only about 10 or so that had transferred to other school districts.
Okay. Good job.
Are there any other questions?
I have one, please. Chris, off the top of your head, can you think of what our ending balance was last year at the end of the last school year?
Ms. Johnson would probably have that figure more exact than I would, but I believe it was around 1.8 million.
That's good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looking forward into the year, are we going to probably need to, are we going to have to work on our numbers as far as classes and class size for teachers and that kind of thing, considering our enrollment being down?
Actually, at this point, because of the social distancing, our classes are absolutely packed in the classroom. And that is a concern that we have kids wall to wall right now, even with as many as we have virtually. Those teachers that are not teaching some of them that are teaching face-to-face are also teaching virtually, or they're teaching face-to-face. So right now, at this point, we are I would say pretty much at capacity of the numbers that we should have per class. But if they continue to drop, we certainly will have to look to see if there's anything that needs to be done as we move through the year. But right now we pretty much need everybody that, in fact, I know we need everybody that we have just in order to function day by day.
Do we have teachers that are not reporting to school and they're teaching virtually from home, or is everybody reporting to school?
Almost all of them are teaching from their classroom if they're teaching virtually, unless there's a special situation that they've had to deal with personally with health or something. And occasionally that will have to happen, and the principal and Mr. Ashley will get together just on an individual basis if there's a need for something like that. We've had, for instance, someone whose class or a teacher quarantined because their child was quarantined from another district, and they were able to teach from home rather than have to hire a sub. So that's a situation that we prefer to have if possible. But on a normal day, if you are virtually teaching, you are in your classroom, so you have access to all the materials and can collaborate with other teachers if you need to, and you're teaching from the classroom.
Do you happen to know our ratio to teachers who are teaching physical class versus virtual class?
I can tell you that at the primary and elementary level, they have isolated certain teachers that are teaching just virtually and others that are teaching all the face-to-face. And then as you go into middle school and high school, almost everyone at some point has a virtual class and a face-to-face. So as far as a ratio that's going to go across the district, no, I don't have that number, but it corresponds to the numbers basically of what we have. Now, our virtual teachers do have a heavy load. We talked about this earlier in the year before we got started, that we weren't really sure what to expect. We didn't have any idea how many students would sign up for virtual, but because we've had so many students sign up for virtual, we do have some teachers who'd have a pretty big capacity.
That's really why I asked. I was curious what what it takes. Is it, I guess for a normal teacher, say the average class is maybe 20 students, and for a virtual teacher, is it more or less, or what's the demand as far as students to teachers virtually?
It's actually more for virtual. They can have more. They gave a waiver this year so that we do not have to cap the number of virtual students per teachers as the same as it would be if they were in a classroom. So where in a classroom they may only be able to take 24 students, they might have 32 in the virtual setting. So that's just a scenario that could happen. But we do have some teachers who have additional extra students right now, and that's one thing that the principals are working within their schools to try to balance the load as best they can for the teachers that are teaching virtually, so that they're not all taking on something, one person or one group's taking on more than somebody else. We're trying to equal it out as best as possible, and making sure that load is balanced as much as we can as well.
Has our cutoff date been finished, that they can't return until January?
That cutoff date, yes, ma'am, was a couple of Fridays ago, I believe, was the last cutoff date. But I know that in the discussions with principals, Mr. Ashley has said that if there is a need, for instance, last Thursday, we had midterm conferences. And if we can see that a child is absolutely floundering and not going to be successful in a virtual classroom, we have to make the choice for what's better for that child. And if that means bringing them back to school, if the parent and the teacher can agree on that, then we need to bring them back to school so they can get that teaching. For some students, it's not an issue and they do well virtually. But for others, they've had enough time that they realize that either they're not logging on or they're not capable of keeping up. And so the recommendation from that teacher and that principal was, we need you back here instead. So there is a hard date. There was a hard date, but with anything that you have in school, there are always exceptions. And Mr. Ashley has let our principals try to help make those decisions on those exceptions based on what space they know they have in their building, the capacity to bring somebody back. We've had to say, you know, I'm sorry, but those classrooms are full. And if you could continue working virtually, and as long as you're doing okay with that, we'd prefer you stay there. And that's our first line. But if a child just absolutely is floundering, we're not going to let them stay in a situation where they're not going to be successful. So,
Okay, so what are we doing? What are we doing in kindergarten? Because it's full. Every class is full, and it's not safe. Every class over there is full, and I know they came back. So you went from 14 to 15. Now we got 18 and 19 per class. So are we making adjustment? Because like I said, she didn't lead on to me that there was going to be a change in that classroom, and those kids are sitting on the floor, and I just don't like. I don't even like the setup, and I don't think it's.
Ms. Wilson answer that if that's okay, because she knows the setup and numbers in her building.
Okay.
We actually were finally able to find a new kindergarten teacher because we've been trying to hire one since school started, but the applicants weren't out there. But we did find a new kindergarten teacher, and so that started actually this last week, and we were able to take that new kindergarten teacher and get the classes lower, so no one is full at this point. And the virtual teachers got together and talked about their load and what they were doing, and one of the virtual teachers volunteered to come back to on-site, and the other virtual teacher agreed to take the full load of virtual students. So that also helped take some of the, make the classes smaller in kindergarten. So we're about 16, 17 in all the kindergarten classes right now. And then my virtual teacher, she agreed to take the load, and she has 34 kids virtually.
And speak to the partitions that you did get.
Yes, we do. Every classroom has the partitions. They were delivered. We worked on those last week and got them all put up. And then on parent-teacher conference day, since we didn't have any kids, we got them put on the desk. So if a child has an individual desk, they have their own partition. And then we already had the table partitions already up since the beginning of school.
So this all happened after Monday then, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We had to wait until we could hire that teacher.
Okay, and okay, so is my kids still, have we moved our tables where the kids can't see that they have to come and sit? If we lowered those numbers now, we still had some sitting in the corners. Is that taken care of as well?
I'm pretty sure in almost all the classrooms, I mean, I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that we've lowered the number of seats or number of kids in each classroom, or that's taken care of as well.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay, if there are no other questions on report to the public, we will move on to information items and reports. Mr. Ashley, if you would give your superintendent's report.
Yes, no, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to give a new gym construction in progress and a financial report on that. I've asked Danielle to come and speak a little bit to, for all general purposes, we are done with the project, both projects, the track and the arena. And why I'm at this point, I was going to tell you, in the month of October, I want to set up a grand opening. And of course, I'll be inviting all the board members and some dignitaries and some things like that. And hopefully we could have it in mid-October where the weather is a little bit cooler and nicer. But I did want to speak to that. It's for all general purposes, it's ready. The kids are using it already, and we're glad of that. Financially, You know, we're hoping that it equals up exactly how much money we have. But if you'll remember, everything was not exact because we did have to spend X amount of dollars, maybe a little bit more than we had planned toward the architect fees, because he was based on a percentage. So I think what we're going to find at the very end, and Ms. Johnson and I talked about it, is that it may not come just perfectly to the dime of exactly what we still owe to complete the project or to finish it off. And I think what we're going to find is there were a couple change orders in there toward the end. You know, the ticket booth, the grids that go around the humidifiers, and also with the architect fees, maybe not being an exact dollar when we started out. And then of course you remember that came out of there too. So we may have to dive into the our second lien bond some to finish it up, and that will be fine. And of course, Mr. Harper is going to speak to a little bit about some asphalting that we're going to be able to get done here in a little bit. On the second lien bond financial report, of course, we're paying the track out of that. And I think we've paid for maybe almost half of what the track is. And I'm not sure where the billing on that is. Ms. Johnson can maybe speak to it here in a few minutes. But we have already done several things out of that second lien bond. One of the biggest things to finish up is, or the two biggest things to finish up is paying for the remainder of the track balance, and then also to asphalt and have that paved over there at the elementary school. On update, I guess, Danielle, if you'd like to speak to anything on that as we close everything up and finish everything up. I'd invited her. I didn't know if there was much she could report out or on, but I invited her. She, for some reason, she likes this bunch pretty good, and she'd really like to see everybody's face again. But Danielle, do you have anything to add or to it, or?
Yeah, no, we are done, guys. The track we got is completely finished. We finished up a last little bit of extra work that needed to be done last week that I am very happy with. The gym, we're just cleaning up around the building as wind blows through and trash just came up, and just finishing up a few little bitty things. But overall, the project at this point, I can firmly, it's complete. Now then, Baldwin Shell isn't going anywhere. We will have the school and Mr. Ashley can always call on us at any point in time if any issues arise, and we'll always answer.
Okay. I kind of wanted to give an update, a COVID-19 update as far as our students. You know, the governor, and it's on a website called ACI, and it's from the Department of Health. But anyway, that is, we can go to that map and look at our school. I kind of explained it last time, I think, or maybe board meeting before that, our school district is now broken down into pretty much a GeoNet or a geofence that we have around our district. And that's how, you know, they determine when they report out that in a school district they have X amount of cases, or they're in, if you remember our first week of school, we had to abbreviate it in some form or fashion because they had reached out to me on that Thursday afternoon before starting the school that Monday and said, hey, you're in the red, meaning we were 50 plus toward 10,000. for every 10,000, we had 50 plus cases. But I'm happy to report now that ours is down into the green, which, pardon me, I think the light green is the lowest numbers. But right now we are between 10 and 19 cases in our GeoNet, so that's good. And I hope it stays that way. And we're trying to do everything possible on our end for our kids and not to make sure that there's not a spread. So that's a plus in itself. When 5 weeks ago we were in the deep red. Mr. Williams, he gave some numbers a while ago, and I was going to bring light to it too. Is that we had 1,737 kids in our school right now, and of course face to face it's 967, virtual is 751, and then there were 19 no-shows, and we do have folks out knocking on doors and seeing where those last few kids were. But I can tell you this morning, there were how many, Chris, this morning?
I believe it was 34 this morning.
34, and we went out and knocked on some doors this morning. Mr. Harper and I did, and we found a few, and we made some friends, and we've also got taken off the Christmas list of a few other people. I'm sure we did kind of impose on them, and I think we scared them a little bit. I was in a tie, and he had on his security stuff, and as he does every day. So when we went to them, I think they thought we were somebody else, to be honest with you. But once we announced we were from Blytheville School District, we wanted to check up on their their children. They warmed up to us. Wanted to also mention just something about when, I guess about 3 weeks ago, we fed the chicks, the school board did, and we had a few board members that came out and cooked. I know it was Billy and Toby and our Miss Johnson, Mr. Fair, and Miss Sims came.
No,
Miss
I didn't.
Didn't come. That's
No.
right. You didn't get to come.
I was there last year.
Let me look at names. I know I named 3, didn't I?
2.
2.
Name 2.
And Miss Carloni, you came, right? Yes, Miss Lewis did. And so we got to mingle with the kids a little bit, and they appreciated the meal very, very much. So we let them know it was from the Blytheville School Board, and they supported the chicks, and they cared for the chicks very much. So at this time, if any of the board members would like to ask me any questions, I'll be glad to answer from my report.
Yes, I have a question. When you mentioned the COVID cases, and I remember when we did a little tour of the gymnasium, I had a concern about the faucets. One, the grade of the faucets, they were very cheap. And and I don't know if Miss Danielle is still on there. Is she still here?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, and did y'all address that when you went back to do some things about the faucets? And of course, they're the ones, but you have to use your hands to cut them on and cut them off, and so that would lessen germs and possibly the spread of them any more germs and COVID.
Well, I can answer to that a little bit.
Okay.
Also, and Mr. Harper could too. We're in the process of, as quick as we can, replacing what faucets we have with the water bottle filling stations. And we're going to do that with both. I think there is actually one that was already in, they're in the hallways, aren't they, Danielle, of the arena? the bottle filling stations?
They're in the locker rooms.
They're in the locker rooms. They're in the locker room. But the ones out in the lobby, Ms. Sims, we're replacing those also with water bottle filling stations. We've actually cut off all faucets across the district other than the new water bottle filling stations that we've put in.
Okay, I'm
Aren't I
talking about
correct on
also
that?
in the bathrooms, also those what? That's the ones I was, addressing too. The
Oh,
faucets, the hand when you wash your hands after using the restroom. Those were they addressed?
The dispensers?
Not the dispenser. When you put the hot water on and the cold water on to wash your hands up under there, I was saying,
Yes, ma'am.
did they address that and get the water, handle it so that you don't have to turn the faucets on, that you can just put your hand under it, the motion.
The touchless?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Well, unfortunately, that's quite a bill to be able to get all those done. They were not, they may have been in the original drawings. I'm not sure. But Miss Danielle's saying no, they weren't. So I don't think that was ever in the original original plans to put those in. That is definitely something that we could possibly hope for, look for, but that's a pretty expensive changeover, I think. Aren't I, Danielle?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. So, Ms. Sims, what you're talking about is what in the construction industries we refer to as a green feature. It monitors the water output because it's motion sense. And those green sinks and those water features are very expensive. And that was not included in the project even originally, before we did the value engineering of it.
Yeah.
And when you say they're expensive, do you know about basically how much they run?
I put some in a project last year for a 2 faucet sink, and it ran $7,500 per sink.
I don't remember us discussing that, Miss Sims. I apologize. I must have missed that on the hand ones. I thought I remembered something about a water faucet.
We had said the concerns with, of course, with COVID and coming back to school and everything. We did say, and I think Erin had kind of mentioned, and she had said, Ms. Sims had mentioned when we did the tour, how the faucets that was in there were very cheap faucets just cheap, horrible faucets in the beginning. But then, so we were discussing about the germs and COVID touching, if something going on and touching them, and what would they, what was a better
Yes, ma'am.
alternative. Yeah, we mentioned it briefly. It wasn't at the beginning of the building of the gymnasium.
Okay.
It was just because of this.
I remember that, Michelle, and we did, we talked about that for just a little while we were touring the facility. So I do think that would be nice, but it sounds $7,500 a sink is insane.
Right. Maybe we can find later on an alternative. Someone else may be able to get a better prices.
I think
I will look into that.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ashley on his report? If not, we will move on to the instructional report. Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I've got 2 screens going here. I'm going to share my screen with you so I can share part of my job that I took over when Allison Turner left us, and then when David Cook also left. is handling the family and community engagement piece. And so tonight I'm just going to give you an outline of the district parent and family engagement plan. And so I'm going to share my screen so you can see just the outline of it. It's a very brief plan because the most of the detail comes in each school plan. Those school plans have already been completed and have been reviewed, and we are just going to preparing to turn in the district plan to the team at the Department of Ed. And so I just want you to see this. So let me share the screen. Host has disabled participant screen sharing, Mr. Ashley.
Well, Chris will have to do that. We're trading hosts, so I think Chris will have to give you that right.
All right, I'll let Chris, can you do that for me? And I will.
I sure can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can you see the plan in front of you now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me just go briefly through this again. This is just the overall front copy page. And as you can see, we have quite a few members of people that are working within the schools that are on the list to help produce these different plans. The first part of the plan is just that it shows that it's jointly developed and that the expectations are and objectives are developed as a team. And as you all know, we have a parental involvement facilitator on every campus. In some cases, we have 2 of those. They partner together with teams within their buildings. And then we meet together as a district team of parental involvement facilitators as well, so that we can make sure that we know the expectations and the guidelines that the state has for all of our work around parental involvement. A lot of this has really changed this year because of COVID. So many of the events that have just been very traditional for us have changed, and we've had to create some things new. So this group has really been working hard to try to create new and interesting ways to involve our parents, to keep them engaged in the work of the students, and also to follow safety guidelines. So this first part just shows that we have jointly developed this team, and basically it's a small paragraph that just shows that we have parental involvement facilitators and all those things that I have just described. The second part is talking about building staff capacity through training and technical assistance. And basically this is talking about the fact that we do training every year around parental involvement. Some years the state requires a very formal training and requires a certain number of hours that must be done every single year, you know, in order to make sure that every staff understands the importance of connections with the community. We have gotten to the point where, in addition to that specific isolated training, we train throughout everything that we do. We talk about ways to engage the families. So if we're talking about creating lessons, we're also talking about ways that we can engage our families and our parents in the lessons that the students are working on. And so that engagement is done sometimes in collaborative sessions, sometimes in professional learning training sessions with whole school, and sometimes it's in small groups based on need for some things. This year, we are going to do a lot more of this virtually. In fact, have started a lot of this virtually. Last week, the elementary school, actually, I think it was the week before last, elementary school had the very first virtual parent-teacher meeting, PTO meeting, and they had a wonderful presentation. So any parent, they put the link out on their website and on the district website, and we're able to link that out so the community could join in. So anybody who wanted to join in, even if they were not a family from BES, was allowed to join in if they wanted to do that. And we're going to try to do a lot more publication and publicizing those events so that we can get as many people as possible to join in and log on. We'll do some of them as Facebook Live events, and where we are trying to encourage other parents to log on. And when we do that, we will give them resources and share guides with them virtually that will help them, also giving them dates and places where they can go on the website or the school website or Facebook page so that they can see things that they need to do to help with their parents. There is a parent-friendly version of all of these community plans in the handbook. That is part of what goes in each handbook, and it is also it will be on our website after tonight. Building parent capacity, again, we're working with all the different community organizations. We just can't bring them all onto the school campus anymore to build our capacity. So we're trying to figure out new and different ways that we can work with our parents, show them how they can work with their students. So a lot of the things that we've done a lot of already this year are parent meetings where the parent and the child are Zooming together with the classroom teacher to learn how to navigate through the virtual environment. Even if those students are face-to-face on campus, the parents still need to know how to locate different things in a virtual environment, because that sometimes those children will be at home if they're sick or if they had to go home. And then we also have built in virtual days, as we had last week on Thursday, for parent conference time, so that the students can be at home learning and the parents can log in and get information. The last part, or the fourth part, is reservation and evaluation. And basically this just explains how we will share with the family members what our budgets are, how we use our money, the annual allotments. And that is similar to what Chris was showing you tonight in the Title I allocations and what I shared with you about the different goals of each school building. What we did was a district level, but each school will have their own Title I parent meeting, and they will be able to do that virtually this year because, again, we don't bring people onto the campus, but they'll be able to send that information out. It can be in a slide form, it can be in a video form. They can talk and video themselves doing it so people can access it at different times, which there's a lot of things that we're learning through our virtual aspect that may even help parents. If they can't log in at 5 o'clock when we're having a PTO meeting, if we've recorded it, they can watch it at 9:30 that night when the kids are put to bed. And so we're hoping we can spread our word and share more things because of the virtual. We're learning some things that we didn't know about in the past that I think will help us this year and in the future as well. And the last piece is coordination. And this just means that we are coordinating from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We have a shared drive, as a matter of fact, so that if one of the buildings creates a really good template to use with parents, we're putting it in that drive so that the other buildings can also use that template and share it. Because if something's great and it's working somewhere, we want to share that information and make sure everybody has access to it, because the whole goal across the district is to coordinate with our families to make sure that they feel connected. It's a little harder to do that this year because they're not connected face to face, but I want to really commend our school teams, because they've really gotten together and found some unique ways to try to reach out and find parents, connect to parents. Even the knocking on doors is an example of being able to reach out in our community. So again, there are just 5 small sections. None of these are very large, but this is something that I needed you to see and know that we have completed this plan. It is a requirement by the state. It used to be required and is normally required the 1st of August, but they've given us an extension as well on this plan, just like they did for the enrollment because of the circumstances for the year. Does anyone have a question about just the community planning in particular, or just family and community engagement? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing then.
And we will have to take a vote on that for board approval.
Yes, it should be included at the end of the document, I believe, at the end of the agenda. All right. And as far as other reports for tonight, the district support plan, I will also tell you, We have what we call a district support plan, which is a combination of all of the reports that we've been sending to you all as we've had an update around COVID, as we've had an update like the Ready to Learn plan, and how we were going to lay out our classrooms, how we were going to social distance, all of the PPE that was prepared, all of the different things that we've done with bus routes, all those things that you all get a report on every month around COVID and how we're running schools. That's part of what we call the district support plan. What we had to do is just compile all of those into one report to send to the department. And then at the end of that report, I added what we call the district literacy plan, which just highlights what every building is doing to make sure that all of our students are getting literacy curriculum that is on the approved list from the Department of Ed, which they are. Making sure that our students with dyslexia are being served with interventionists, which they are, and just shows the goals, the same goals, as a matter of fact, that I showed you earlier in the plan that Mr. Williams and I went over, are in that same district literacy plan. So again, it's a repetition of much of the other work that you've seen all year long, but we have to put that all together in one report and turn it in. So it's nothing new that you all have not seen. But I did want to make you aware that I'm turning that in. It's not anything that you have to vote on because you've seen all of the details of it. I will be happy to have Mr. Ashley email you a copy of it just for your record, so you have it in one place, because prior to now, it's been scattered in a variety of things that we've put out on the website, a variety of things that we've put out on social media, that we've sent home with parents, and that have all of those have been shared with you as we put them out. But this is one place where you can see much of it together in one place. So I'll have him share that with you and you can look at it at your leisure. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Ashley, unless anybody has a question.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Are there any questions, board members? If not, we will proceed on to Ms. Cole.
Good evening.
Ms. Cook, Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Hey, Ms. Cook, do you mind sharing, giving me the rights back to the screen? You're on mute. You're on mute, Ms. Cook.
I'm not sharing anymore, so I'm not sure what else I would have to do.
Well, I think you would have to go back in there and share with me now the where it was Cole. I think you'd have to go back in there and not share this screen, but you'd have to go back in. You know how Chris gave you the rights to run it? I think now you have to give it to me.
Mr. Ashley, you should now have the rights on it, because
well, I looked to see and I didn't think I did.
Yes, sir, because you just gave me rights to help host it, but I'm not sharing, so I'm not, I mean, I didn't take anything away from you.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to start out by saying good evening. And then I have Title 6B budget to be approved tonight. And I didn't put it up on the screen, but you have it in your packet, I believe. So the Title 6B budget for the 2020-21 budget for Title 6B. We have a beginning balance for the fiscal year of 2020-2021. Reserve fund was $14,328.73. The total receivable for the fiscal year of 2020-21 was $595,290.36. And then that total came together with the reserve and with the receivable amount of that total allotment that Mr. Williams had mentioned in his his report to the public. That's at $609,619.09. We also had a carryover from 2019-2020 of $65,029.30, which made our total budget for the year, or total expenditures for this fiscal year of 2020-2021 of $674,649.39. That money will, the expenditures, we have a summary of the expenditures of how that money will be spent. And so we have total salaries, $373,973.84. Total benefits, and that's $106,426.39. And that includes salaries and benefits for 2 special bus drivers, special transportation bus drivers, 2 special transportation bus monitors, and 1 substitute bus monitor, a bus driver, 1 full-time due process coordinator, 14 paraprofessionals, 1 full-time IDEA administrative assistant / bookkeeper. Also, for our early coordinated early intervening services, that's at 15% that we have to put aside because we are still listed as has that disproportionality situation. And so 15% of our total allotment is $91,318.73. And in that amount there, this year, our entire CCEIS money included half salaries and benefits and of my salary, and then half salary and benefits of one of our paraprofessionals who's a behavior interventionist. The rest of the CCEIS money, we had a carryover from 2019-2020, $42,412.14. That's a carryover from last year's CCEIS. And then we have purchase services that we budgeted $40,100, which includes $36,000 for preschool for the from the co-op. These are children who are served in our district but not in our schools preschool program. And also this money can be spent for purchase services for PD. Also, we have been also using some of the money from last year for virtual conferences. We haven't gone to any PD conferences, discipline conferences this year because of COVID, but they're having some nice ones through virtual, and I didn't think that would go as well. It just has been going, so we've been enjoying that. And then last, materials and supplies of $20,417.21, and these are materials and supplies for the Title 6B funding, and that brings it to a grand total of $674,648.39. Any questions on that part? If not, I wanted to just give you an update on our virtual versus our face-to-face attendance. Our 504 students are included in the general population, but as of today, looking at the totals from our Cognos report, we have virtual students with an IEP who have gone virtual or who are still virtual. In the Blytheville Primary School, we have 12 out of 27 students at that school, 27 IEP students with IEPs. And then also we have at the Blytheville Elementary, 32 students who are virtual still, out of a total of 69 students with IEPs at the elementary school. And then at the Blytheville Middle School, we have 30 students who are still attending virtually, out of 56 students with IEPs. We have the high school, we have 46 students who are still serving, who are still being served virtually out of 84 students. Now, the total from K through 12 is 130 students. And if you look at, if we go back to last month, we had a total of 115 students with IEPs in the K, when you look at K through 12. So that's an increase of 15 students who are now going virtual in the Blytheville School District. Also, now I'll go to our ELL students. ELL students who are going virtually, we have K through 5, K through 5th grade, out of 34 ELL students, there were only 4 students now who are being served virtually. That's 2 at the primary school and 2 at the elementary school. So, and then on our ELL virtual students, 6th grade through 12th grade, out of 31 students, 31 ELL students, only 11 are now doing virtual. That's 8 at the middle school and 3 at the Blytheville High School. So last month we had 50 ELL students receiving their instruction virtually, and now we have K through 12 11. And I think it's we're working with those. We are working. I know the teachers and principals, they're working, and then we're also working with those ELL parents, the parents of the ELL students, trying to get them to understand how to log on and do all the different things that it takes in order to help their children at home receive instruction virtually. So we're looking at that, and we're continually working with those students. But and I've talked to Miss Ponce and Miss McClure, our ELL tutors, and their reasoning after they've talked with the parents is it's just too difficult. So they're bringing their children back face to face. That's all I have on that, unless you have any questions for me.
Ms. Cole?
Yes, ma'am.
What does EOL stand for?
ELL. That's,
oh, you said ELL? I'm sorry. I thought you
ELL,
said,
English Language Learners.
yeah, I thought you said EOL.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there are no questions from Ms. Cole, we will move on to the operations report from Mr. Harper.
Yes, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Just to follow up with what Mr. Ashley had shared earlier regarding the parking lot renovation at elementary, we found from the consulting with the Department of Education, the facilities division, that we're going to have to, in order to start a project of that nature, to consult with a civil engineer. So I'm planning on trying to host a civil engineer this week to come out and go through what we're needing there at the parking lot and help us determine specific specifications and needs. And then once that's determined, our plans are to bring this matter before the board in order to open it up for, and advertise for bids because of the tentative cost that's probably going to be associated with this project. So I will have more information about that matter, should have that by the next board meeting in order to share with you a little bit further. So moving along, as far as child nutrition, I wanted to share that right now we're averaging about 650 meals per day. That's up from the beginning of school significantly. And that tends to be trending upward right now. So I'll certainly share with you where we're at our next meeting. Regarding transportation, we're currently running 17 bus routes. 2 of those include special service routes, and we're currently averaging about 275, 276 students per day. And of course, proud to say that we've not had any accidents or damage. I always like to share that with you. And of course, Ms. Barnes wanted me to share that social distancing and use of masks are required on the buses at all times. And again, those buses are being disinfected at the end of each route, both in the morning and in the afternoon. Our maintenance department, our maintenance members they have been and they're still assisting us with delivery of PPE to the campuses when those items are needed. Gloves, masks, disposable gowns, hand sanitizer, disinfectant solution. They've really been wonderful in helping us get those items delivered to our campuses in a timely manner. And then also regarding the track, our maintenance department is putting together some material costs, and they're looking at replacing some of the gates around the track. On the main entry point, we're looking at installing a type of gate that would prevent like bicycles or any type of motorized, like a motorcycle or a four-wheeler from being brought in. It would restrict it to like foot traffic only. And then we've also placed signage out there that specifies the type of footwear that needs to be worn on the surface of that track. Safety and security, we're going to be partnering with the Mississippi County Juvenile Office to assist us with some FINS training, attendance related FINS training. So we hope to get that scheduled within the next couple of weeks. And then also regarding security, we've discussed security issues in the past at the track. And I spoke with a vendor regarding a particular type of camera that we're looking at placing. There is a camera that kind of has an overview right now, but this particular camera, the vendor described as having a mechanical zoom, which would assist if we do have any issues out there, that has the capability of zooming in, even like license plates on vehicles. So we've asked that if we could perhaps maybe try that and test it to see if it's effective. And if it is, we'll be looking at probably purchasing that item. And then I just wanted to add, I think Mr. Ashley and maybe Ms. Sims had talked about I know some of the water fountains earlier, but we, as of today, we have retrofitted bottle filling, or excuse me, water fountains throughout the district, either with an outright bottle filling station replacement, or some of the newer units like Water Found at Chick-A-Rena, we were able to retrofit and upgrade to bottle filling stations. And as of today, those projects have been completed. So with that, that's all I have, and I'd be glad to answer any question that you may have.
Mr. Harper,
Yes, ma'am.
for all intents and purposes, have we accepted the gym?
Well, my understanding is that it has been turned over to us. There are a couple of items that we're looking at trying to complete with the ticket booth,
Okay.
and then an external appearance issue on with some of the landscaping, just the cleanup of some rock, but just very minor things of that nature. Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there a time period on the warranty?
Well, it depends on the equipment itself. Like HVAC has a 1 year. It really depends on what the specific item is, Ms. Johnson, that would determine that.
It would be, okay, whatever contractor put it in.
Yes, ma'am. That's
right?
my understanding.
Okay, what about the structure itself? That Baldwin and Shell would be responsible for. Is there a warranty on that?
I'm not aware. Is Miss Dodd, is she still with us?
No.
That's something we can research, Miss Johnson.
Okay.
I'm not aware on that particular.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
a lot of stuff is up to 1 year. But now, are you talking about the building itself?
I think I'm talking about everything that is not under a different contractor. So it would be the building itself, the gym floors, the floors upstairs, the elevator. Well, that would be a contractor though, wouldn't it? The structure of the building.
And then if I could just add on the elevator, Ms. Johnson, that once that 1 year warranty is up with the manufacturer, we contract for those services. We currently do that for our existing elevators, and we would do the same for the one at Chick-A-Rena.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Harper?
Yeah, Mr. Harper, I'm kind of want to piggyback off of Miss Sims. It made it seem like she was talking about removing the whole faucet, the whole sink, because I know a faucet is not going to cost no $7,500. So what she was talking about is just the faucet itself, where you move your hand in it and the water comes off. Is there a way that you could look at that and give us a total?
Certainly, and we can also research, whether or not some of that would be covered under CARES Act funding to perhaps help
Okay.
pay for the cost. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Harper,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. We have security accompany all the teams when we go out of town.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Ms. Wells? I couldn't
I
hear.
said, do we have security, our security, SRO, do they accompany our teams when they go out of town?
On some games they do, Ms. Wells, with games that may be like a rivalry, or at times we may have a school reach out and request that we assist with that. So yes, ma'am, we do.
Not all the time that you're saying, you just saying at times, sometimes.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Why not all time?
I mean, we certainly could. We don't have a specific policy on that, but I mean, we could certainly do that.
I was just a question. I was over at the gym when they had a volleyball game and Brooklyn came in and they little SRO van, and he was there with the girls and I stood watching. They looked real nice, and I was just wondering, and I had inquired and I was told that we do not. And are you aware that we have volunteers that go on our buses to help with our football, with our boys? I don't know necessarily this football team, but are you aware of that?
Anybody?
Volunteer from the community.
I'm not personally. From a security standpoint, I'm not. We could research that if there's an interest. Mr. Ashley, would you?
No, it's not an interest. I just saw someone enter the bus and I asked, why was he getting, going with them on a football game? And they told me the reason why. And I was just wondering, were you aware, the district was aware that we have people in the community that travels that way?
Yes, ma'am. I can think of two right off the bat, and both of them are have got their credentials through the AAA in order to be a volunteer coach.
You're all garbled, Mr. Ashley.
Yeah, he always.
Always what?
I mean, it's you gargling. It's not that we can't hardly hear you or understand you.
This is a new computer. I don't know what's going on. Can y'all hear me better now? No? I don't know.
You were fine before. Maybe if you turn your microphone on and off, it will.
Let me try that.
No, Mr.
No.
I'll put it in the chat.
Mr. Ashley, I'll run over and see if we can maybe plug in that external microphone. Do you still have it?
Yeah.
While they're doing that, board members, I wanted to let you know that I sent a email to you kind of summarizing a lot of the concerns and questions, guidelines, thoughts that we had from our superintendent work session. So y'all all have copies of that in your email. Feel free to look it over and think about it as far as future goals and getting the board together as far as what our goals for the district are and for Mr. Ashley.
Put something in the chat box. We can try this. Can y'all hear me any better?
Yes.
Okay, let's try that and see if that helps.
Much better.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. We have a couple volunteer coaches that are certified through the AAA, and they help with the football team.
They coaches?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for Blytheville, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Volunteer football coaches that are really interested in the team and want to help, and of course, we'll take the help. They have to have background checks and everything, just like everybody else.
Do they receive any compensation, Mr. Ashley?
No, ma'am. We can't pay a volunteer coach.
Okay.
That was my concern mainly, Mr. Ashley.
I think Mr. Harper may still be in flux, but I don't know if there are any further questions. There he is.
Okay, I'm back. Yes, ma'am.
I had one question about the zoom in camera that you mentioned that you could potentially get. Is that camera, are you able to zoom in after the fact? So like for instance, if no one was there monitoring it and you had a crime occur, and the footage has already happened, would you be able to zoom in then, or does someone have to be live sitting there to zoom in to see that license plate?
No, that's a great question. So the mechanical zoom would have to, you'd have to utilize that feature at the time that it might be needed. So the cameras can be set where they're activated by motion. So we would have to be aware of something occurring in order to utilize that feature. However, the particular camera that this vendor was describing to us has an overall wider field of view than what we currently have. And then also it's a little bit better at low light settings, should something occur during the night. And it has an expanded, what they call digital zoom, which is not, a physical zoom. So again, to your question, the physical part of the zoom on it would have to be activated at the time of occurrence in order to utilize that particular feature.
Do we have someone who monitors those cameras during events and things like that?
Not specifically, unless we're aware of something occurring, then, yes, but otherwise they're usually looked at if we're made aware of an event, perhaps something should happen. We typically go back and look at that footage.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Harper?
I had just that one about the kindergarten. Could you just please check again and make sure those kids are not sitting on the floor?
Yes, ma'am. I will definitely do that for you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lewis, you also wanted to know about face shields.
Well, she answered it when she did hers. She answered everything.
Okay, great. So moving on, we'll go to action items. We have A through L on action items. I believe we're going to take item K off the action items. Is that correct, Mr. Ashley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so board members, if you would update your agenda, we could make family and community engagement plan action item K, and the DESE minority teacher administrator recruitment plan is going to have to be taken off the agenda, but will come before us at a later date.
Yeah, well, yes, ma'am, and I will need to ask for a special board meeting in order to get that approved, because it is, it does have to be in by October the 15th. So I'd like to ask the board, and I'll send out an email and see when's a good time for everyone.
I have a question about Aaron, about the board meeting that was I guess original schedule for October the 19th. I missed on that, and I noticed it's been moved to normally what we do. Why was it tentatively set the 19th?
I can't answer that, Ms. Wells, but I'm sure Mr. Ashley can.
I can. The 19th, there was something planned. I wasn't going to be able to be here. Then those plans fell through, and then thought I'd ask to move it back to the same place.
Okay, thank you.
To be clear, are we scheduling it for the 26th or the 19th?
The 26th.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, to the 26th.
On action item C, read that. I'm not looking at it because I don't want to, we don't have printout copies. And what is action item C?
It's the September 14th, 2020 work session where we reviewed the policies and the Region 7 meeting.
So what we getting ready to adopt those, to accept those, accept all those items, correct? That's
Yes,
what we get ready to do.
To be clear, that we did not have any policy during that.
It was just a proposal.
It was just a work session to discuss it. And hopefully we'll continue that conversation. And the policies that we worked on, I think will be maybe coming up at a next meeting or as they come up.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I'd like to mention on that Region 7 meeting, part 1, I know there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 board members that were there. I turned their names in. And hopefully if you'll log in and do part 2, you can get 3 hours. But also there's an opportunity that, because I turned everybody's name in, but I did it through the co-op. The ASBA got with all the co-ops and told the co-ops, why don't y'all handle it? So I sent that information into the co-op. Is it doing it again?
No, you fine.
Okay, I sent everybody's name into the co-op. And the co-op is going to take those names and send them on into Ann Butcher. So hopefully, maybe everybody.
Okay, Aaron, I just like on action item C, I don't see anywhere else we could probably discuss this. I just want to remind the board that, about our do's and don't. I was not present at that special meeting. And I noticed in the NEA Currytown News, and they printed it out, and there was mixed feelings about it, and about students doing virtual learning when they get in maybe have committed a crime or something outside of, not on the school campus, but outside. And like I said, it's on the weekends, and they committed a crime. We usually don't mention names in a meeting before a hearing or a trial of a student. And he's underage. And unless the board had permission, had spoke with his lawyer to do that. Also, I don't know about these meetings when they record it from the secretary or whomever, and the media is covering it. And at this particular time, the name that was mentioned wasn't even in a closed session. It was just mentioned publicly, and the media got it, and they put it in the paper September the 16th. So from my training with the ASBA training, that's a no-no. We don't do that. I don't know, do Mr. Ashley look at the reports before it's sent to the press? I mean, the press is there to cover it, but I think that Mr. Ashley should, and not saying he don't, look at all of those meetings before they record it.
Well, I think I know which student you're talking about. In the newspaper, we didn't mention that student's name. The newspaper did.
Okay. And the ones that has been on the board for a long time with training hours, do you all agree with that? The ones I'm talking about. I mean, everybody been through training. Miss Lewis, Mr. Fair, and whomever, and Miss Johnson, Tracy. We know about that. It's a do and don't. But he did say Blytheville did not mention it. He said the Curry did.
Yes, ma'am. I'm familiar with it.
Well, what do you have to say about that?
He mean to say that the Curry News just mentioned those names on their own?
I guess that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
We did not mention anything in the meeting.
Beg your pardon?
We did not mention the student's name in the meeting.
Yes, it was. It's in the paper. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Did you get a copy of the paper?
Yes, ma'am. It was mentioned in there, but that student's name was not mentioned by the school or the school board in that meeting. But although I know which ones you're talking about, Ms.
No,
Wells.
Mr. Ashley, I don't agree with that. It was mentioned by a board member, unless he's not a board member anymore. I'm looking at it.
There was a student's name that was mentioned that is out of school now. There was
Mr. Ashley, if I may.
Yes.
The student that is currently enrolled and taking classes on the virtual platform was not mentioned by me, Mrs. Wells. The reference that I gave by the student that is enrolled in college and has been out of Blytheville Public Schools for a year was mentioned by me in reference to the point that was made. But the current student that it was mentioned in the newspaper right after the statement that I made, that statement was put in the paper by the Courier News itself, not me.
Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. I know some of us take Blytheville Courier News and some don't. And let me go back about the current student. Meanwhile, after you made your statement about the college football statement, but we're not going to go on with this because, like I said, all this should be in an executive session or personnel or whatever. Meanwhile, a current Blytheville High School student, 17-year-old Carlos Wells Jr. is facing, it went on to say, and that's when Miss Carrington piggybacking was saying about the court takes a long time, a lengthy time to, I guess, to solve these cases. And I know the incident happened after school, and also the kid was underage.
Right.
But anyway, it's just about.
If I could jump in here, so by you reading the article aloud in the meeting, we were actually mentioning the student's name where the board had not mentioned the student's name before. So I think that is probably inappropriate to discuss this in this venue.
It is.
So, but I think to your point, all the board members have training on this, and we should never bring up a student's name in the middle of the meeting. Anything discussing a student by name should happen in executive.
In open. Yeah,
So-
always closed meeting and not in open session.
So, and that what happened in the meeting, and I was not referring when in the article in the paper did not, my comment was not referring to a particular student. It was just discussing the whether or not students who are violent offenders should come to school. The paper added that section about the student that you read aloud on their own. The board had nothing to do with that.
Well, at this time as well, I think the best thing for you to do is try to just get a copy of that meeting. I think we record all those meetings and just go from there.
Well, my question is, was there a change made? Did you all make a policy on this? I'm lost too. Was there a policy made or changed?
No, there were no policies that were made. We did not have a quorum, so it was
Okay.
a work session.
I got it. Okay.
We worked through some policy ideas, and anything that will come out of that meeting will be brought before the full board to make into policy as a group. It was just a work session.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? So, we have a question from Ms. Ritchie. Ms. Ritchie, would you like to address the board?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm when the action item is that we are just approving the notes / minutes of those work sessions. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So in looking over action items A through now K, are there any further questions or the need to separate any of these action items out?
Yes, can we separate item C out?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I will entertain a motion then to accept action items A through K with the exception of item C, which will be voted on separately. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Tracy?
Yeah, let her do it. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, we will vote. Please vote by raising your hand on the screen. So, Ms. Carrington, Toby, Carloni, Billy, Tracy, Ms. Wells, Ms. Sims, Desmond.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. And now for action item C, do I have a motion to approve the work session? And again, this is just the meeting minutes from the work session. It is not approving any sort of policy. It is just literally saying that there was a meeting that was a work session.
So moved.
So I've got a motion from Ms. Johnson,
Second.
a second from Mr. Hammett. And if all those in favor vote by raising your hand within the screen. So Aaron, Toby, Tracy, Michelle, Carloni, Desmond, and all those not in favor? Mr. Fair and Ms. Wells. So that is six yeses and 2 noes. Mr. Fair and Ms. Wells cast the nay votes. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to 7, agenda item 7, personnel recommendations. Is there any need to go into executive session? And to our point before, if anyone feels the need to discuss anyone's name or any details, it would be smarter to go into executive session than to try to discuss it in open session. So in personnel recommendations, we have the appointment of certified employee, requirement of certified employee, appointment of classified employees, and resignation of classified employees, and a voluntary resignation due to job abandonment. If there's no discussion or need to go into executive session, I will entertain a motion to accept A through E under item 7, personnel recommendations.
So moved.
Got a motion from Ms. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Is that Desmond?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand within the screen. So Desmond, as well as, okay, it passes unanimously. All right, if there is no further business to come before the board, we will move to adjourn.
Amen.
All right.